Chapter 2972. Ji Yuanqing sneered when he heard Ji Yuanquan's words. It was indeed obvious to all. Ji Yuanquan's family was best at acting. Ji Yuanqing didn't argue with them. In any case, no one would believe him even if he refuted. They walked out of the family Ji's ancestral hall. They saw the family Ji's people come out in such a grandiose manner. Everyone on the continent where the family Ji was located felt very strange. The family Ji was one of the most powerful families in the Dongting region. The continent where they were located was naturally one of the more prosperous places in the Dongting region. There were many people from other families who came and went here. They either passed by on business or stayed here for a long time to do business with the family Ji. In short, when they saw the family Ji's people walk out, they were all very curious. When they found out the reason, they were immediately in an uproar. Not because of anything else, but because this was a rare piece of gossip. The family Ji's good-for-nothing son had his engagement broken off by someone from the 9-star region. Not only that, but he also had an affair with someone else, and now he had to prove his innocence. The crowd immediately followed the family Ji's people to the central arena, where the main city was located. When they arrived, Ji Feiyu and the others stood on one side, while Ji Fighting and the others stood on the other side. The remaining elders stood in the middle and looked at Qin Xiong and the others who were made way by the crowd. All right. Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent. She looked at Qin Xiong and the others and said, Commander Qin, you can tell us what happened after you and Ji Feiyu went to the Star region. Don't be afraid. Now that the family Ji's people have taken you out of the family Ji's ancestral hall, no one can force you to say anything you don't know. Now you can speak freely. Say everything you want to say. When Luo Qingtong spoke, Qin Xiong and the others looked at her as if they were looking at a fool. What kind of joke was this? What right did they have to be threatened by the family Ji? Those words were said by them to deal with Luo Qingtong and Ji Feiyu. Since Luo Qingtong didn't want them to be coerced, they could speak freely? Could it be that she had been scared silly by such a hopeless situation and had started to talk nonsense? That was what everyone thought. After all, everyone thought that Luo Qingtong was bluffing when she asked them to clarify the facts in the family Ji. She wanted to take the opportunity to force Ji Fighting and the others to retreat, because no one would want to expose such a thing in front of the world. Perhaps Luo Qingtong wanted to make use of Ji Feiyu and the others' mentality to force them to give up on dealing with Ji Feiyu and the others. But she didn't expect Ji Fighting and the others to agree. In this way, if she failed to do the opposite, she would have no other choice. But now, she was still talking nonsense in front of everyone. Thinking this, Qin Xiong and the others looked at Luo Qingtong with disdain and complacency, saying, Okay, I'll do as you wish. Everyone, let me tell you what happened. After young master and I went to the Star Wilderness, we met Luo Xiaoqi. She seemed to be seriously injured and fell in the starry sky. We thought we had found a treasure, so we forced her to tell us the whereabouts of the treasure. The more Qin Xiong and the others spoke, the more panicked they became. This was because they realized that what they wanted to say was completely different from what they had said. What was going on? Chapter 2973. Stop. Qin Xiong and the others looked indescribably panicked. They desperately tried to stop the words from coming out of their mouths, and tried their best to twist the matter back to what they had already planned to say. But no matter how hard they tried, those words were simply out of their control and kept coming out of their mouths. Everyone's foreheads were covered with sweat, and they almost couldn't control the trembling in their hearts. Their minds went blank, and they covered their mouths in embarrassment. But at this time, Luo Qingtong's expression was calm and she smiled. Why don't you continue? I'm very interested to hear what you think. And what was the situation at that time? Why did you slander me and Ji Feiyu like this? As she spoke, Chu Tianyi beside her released an invisible pressure, enveloping Qin Xiong and the others. With the strength of the latter and the others, how could they be Chu Tianyi's opponents? Naturally, they had no resistance, and let him do whatever he wanted. Everyone's hands that were about to cover their mouths froze in place, and they couldn't exert any strength at all. And their mouths, which were originally prepared to shut up, couldn't be closed anymore. They just kept talking about the scene at that time. We saw that Luo Xiaoqi was not strong at that time, and she spoke up for young master, and caused us to be punished, so we decided to kill her. But we were stopped by young master, Qin Xiong said with an extremely ferocious and vicious expression on his face to match his words. In fact, he was already crying in his heart. He struggled and shouted with all his might, and didn't want to continue talking, but he didn't know why. As if he was possessed, he couldn't stop talking at all. At this time, he finally understood what Luo Qingtong meant when she said, "Let them speak freely." He didn't want to talk anymore. He really didn't want to talk anymore. It's over, this Luo Xiaoqi, is she a monster? How did she do this? Despair filled the hearts of Qin Xiong and the others. However, their faces were still extremely ferocious and vicious as they said, "However, young master is protecting Luo Xiaoqi in every possible way, not allowing us to do anything to her. In the end, he used himself as a hostage to make us give up on hunting Luo Xiaoqi. Our hearts are indignant." Coincidentally, young master's engagement was annulled. The 7-star Field's Lu family came to propose to Imo Zhuling. When we saw that the Lu clan was powerful, we ran away. At first, we thought that young master wouldn't be able to come back alive, so we lied to the family. It just so happens that young master and the others are also waiting for a rare opportunity to make a move on young master and the others. So we went with the flow. When Qin Xiong said until here, he was already on the verge of fainting. He actually dared to say such words. It was over. Even if Luo Xiaoqi didn't kill them now and let them leave, he could already foresee his miserable future. Young master and the rest wouldn't let him off. He actually said that the young master and the others wanted to deal with Ji Feiyu. Qin Xiong's body twitched for a while. At this time, Chu Tianyi released the pressure on them. The crowd immediately ran to Ji Fighting and the others, kneeling and kowtowing to them. "Young master, family head, you have to make a decision for us. I don't know what kind of witchcraft this Luo Xiaoqi used to make our hearts and mouths insincere." Chapter 2974. As soon as they said that, Luo Qingtong's voice suddenly sounded with a chuckle. "So, do you want me to prove the truth of your words in public?" Luo Qingtong looked at Ji Fighting and the others with a playful look. The latter and the others looked ugly. They didn't expect that Luo Qingtong had such a trick up her sleeve. They had no doubt that Qin Xiong and the others didn't want to say these words at all. After all, even if they were given 100 guts, they wouldn't dare to slander them in front of so many people. Not to mention, they also overturned what they had said before. Weren't they digging their own graves? Unless Qin Xiong and the others were tired of living. Otherwise, they would never have dared to say so. Therefore, Luo Qingtong was the one who controlled them to say these words. Thinking so, the crowd suddenly looked at Luo Qingtong fiercely. Ji Miaomiao's voice was sharp. "Luo Xiaoqi, no wonder you had to change the location from the family Ji ancestral hall. So that's what you were thinking. I'm telling you, don't even think about it. Everyone here has eyes. They will never believe you." Ji Miaomiao looked angry. Her face was flushed red. Luo Qingtong, this B***TCH, could make Qin Xiong and the others speak according to her idea. They were going to be screwed by her. Fortunately, Qin Xiong and the others were alert. As soon as they recovered, they immediately begged for mercy and exposed Luo Qingtong. Otherwise, they would have to suffer this loss. However, she didn't know that Qin Xiong and the others were just talking nonsense to survive. Luo Qingtong controlled them to tell the truth, but they couldn't admit it. Otherwise, they would be finished. Not to mention that Luo Qingtong and the others wouldn't let them go. Even Ji Fighting and the others would never let them go. Therefore, the crowd could only risk their lives to slander Luo Qingtong. They wanted to make people think that she was controlling them to tell lies. And the actions of Qin Xiong and the others just now were indeed very strange. When the crowd heard their words, they immediately believed it. Upon hearing Ji Miaomiao's words, the family Ji's elders were furious. They looked at Luo Qingtong and Ji Feiyu and said, "Ji Feiyu, you have really disappointed us. In order to cover up your affair with this woman, You actually disregarded the reputation of the family G and allowed her to do whatever she wanted and slander the members of the family G. What are your intentions? How dare an outsider ask you to do this to a member of our family G? You guys are really despicable. You don't deserve to be part of our family G. That's right. Ji Yuanquan, you didn't teach your son well, and even allowed him to slander our family G's reputation. Your family isn't anything good. From now on, our family G no longer has a direct descendant. All of you, get out of the G residence immediately. Guards. The group of family G's elders were filled with righteous indignation and deeply felt that they had been fooled. And Luo Qingtong's method of proving her innocence was simply throwing their family G's reputation to the ground for others to trample on. Therefore, they couldn't hold back any longer and wanted to punish Ji Feiyu and the others by force. At this moment, Luo Qingtong's voice sounded faintly. Originally, I didn't want to be so ruthless. But since you insist that my proof of innocence was a sham, then. Yi Zichen looked at Yi Zichen. Chapter 2975. As she said this, her figure suddenly flashed, and she appeared beside Ji Feitong. The latter's lips were still holding a gloating sneer. At this moment, he was looking at Luo Qingtong and Ji Feiyu, waiting to see how they would be unlucky. A group of idiots. They actually dared to go against Ji Fighting and the others. They wouldn't even know how they died. Especially that Luo Xiaoqi. Although she had some ability, she could actually control Qin Xiong and the others to say things that they didn't want to say. But that was all there was to it. Didn't she see that Qin Xiong and the others immediately refuted what they said as soon as they returned to normal? This Luo Xiaoqi had some ability. No wonder she dared to come to the family Ji with Ji Feiyu and wanted to clarify the matter between them. But since Ji Fighting and the others wanted to deal with them, how could they give her a chance to clarify? It was useless for her to set the place in the central arena. Even if it was in front of so many people, the Ji family still wanted to convict them and convict them of their crimes. As he thought this, the smile on his lips was indescribably cold and proud. At this moment, Luo Qingtong's figure appeared beside him. Before he could react, he heard Luo Qingtong say to him with a chuckle, "Young Master Feitong, you said that you liked me and were willing to help me at the last moment. I am very grateful. Please stand up and expose the sinister face of the family Ji's people. Young Master Feiyu and I are very grateful." Hearing her words, Ji Feitong felt a burst of confusion in his heart. What nonsense was this woman talking about? When did he say that he liked her and wanted to help her at the last moment? She was simply full of nonsense. Thinking this, Ji Feitong was about to angrily reprimand Luo Qingtong. In his opinion, Luo Qingtong didn't know what was good for her and rejected his idea of taking her as a concubine. Now she came to him at this time. Could it be that she was afraid, so she wanted to beg him for mercy? She wanted him to beg Ji Fighting and the others to spare her life? However, it was too late. She had offended Ji Miao Miao, Ji Fighting, and the others for no reason. Ji Feitong didn't even dare to go against Ji Fighting and the others. Even if he dared, he would not go against them for Luo Qingtong. Therefore, he did not hesitate to berate Luo Qingtong. However, when he opened his mouth, he was shocked to find that the words he was about to say had changed. It became, "Good. Don't worry. I've long hated Ji Fighting and Ji Miao Miao's disgusting behavior. This time, I will definitely redress your grievances." What was going on? Ji Feitong was shocked. Luo Qingtong was smiling. She said to Ji Feitong, "Good, it's rare for young Master Feitong to be so righteous. Then please expose Ji Fighting and the others' despicable behavior to the public." Luo Qingtong's face was full of smiles. Didn't the family Ji's people say that she had controlled Qin Xiong and the others to speak? Since they didn't want to hear the truth, then she would really control the family Ji's people to speak. Let's see how they would fall into eternal damnation. In fact, Luo Qingtong had already done something to Ji Feitong. She was just waiting for him to jump out at the critical moment to deal with Ji Fighting and the others. Originally, she didn't want to expose Ji Feitong in this arena. However, since the family Ji's people refused to admit that Qin Xiong and the others were speaking the truth, She could only force them to admit it. Chapter 2976. After hearing Ji Feitong's words, Ji Fighting and Ji Miao Miao immediately became furious. Ji Fighting in particular shouted at Ji Feitong coldly, "Ji Feitong, are you crazy?" After saying this, he thought that Ji Feitong might be under Luo Qingtong's control. He immediately shouted at her, "Luo Xiaoqi, what the hell are you doing? Haven't you learned your lesson from Qin Xiong and the others? How dare you control our family Ji's people to talk nonsense in the arena? Do you think we and everyone else here will believe you?" Ji Fighting was enraged. Luo Qingtong was simply courting death. How dare she do something to Ji Feitong? It was fine that she did something to Qin Xiong and the others. After all, they were the family Ji's servants. But now Ji Feitong was clearly their family Ji's people. She was simply courting death. Ji Fighting's face was filled with rage. Ji Miao Miao's voice was extremely sharp. "Catch that B***TCH right now. Let her control our family Ji's people. Bullshit." As she said this, the family Ji's elders immediately prepared to take action. Because Luo Qingtong's people were Ji Feiyu, Ji Yuancheng, and the others. Ordinary family Ji's guards would be restrained if they took action. It would be troublesome if they escaped. However, Luo Qingtong did not look anxious at all. It was as if she did not see that the family Ji's people were about to take action. She stood beside Ji Feitong and smiled at the people around her. "You family Ji's people are really strange. Since you accused me of doing something to Qin Xiong and the others, and controlling them to say things they shouldn't say, then I'll prove my innocence. Naturally, I'll prove my innocence, and that I didn't do anything to them just now." "What? Now that your family Ji's own people have come forward to expose you, you're panicking? There's no better way to describe you with a guilty conscience than with a guilty conscience. As for whether I'm controlling them or not, everything will be clear once young Master Feitong speaks. Young Master Feitong, please tell me all the dirty secrets of your family Ji. What's going on with Ji Feiyu going to the Star Desolate region to propose? How are Ji Fighting and Ji Miao Miao in the family Ji?" Luo Qingtong's words made Ji Feitong's teeth itch. This B***TCH was simply trying to kill him. However, did she think that this would be enough to deal with Ji Fighting and the others? What a joke. So what if she controlled herself and told him the truth? Ji Fighting and the others could still insist that she was controlling herself to speak. And when he returned to normal, he would insist that she was controlling him. When that time came, she and Ji Feiyu would still have a dead end. This idiot actually thought that asking him to speak was different from asking Qin Xiong and the others to speak. Thinking this, Ji Feitong sneered viciously in his heart. However, just as he thought this, he heard a series of words uncontrollably coming out of his mouth. These words were all about the secrets of the family Ji and the extremely vicious things that Ji Fighting had asked him to do. He also heard about what Ji Miao Miao had done. In short, this was a huge revelation. Chapter 2977. Oh my God, Ji Fighting and his people are so vicious. Yes, did you hear that? It turns out that the young master of the Yuan family, who ranked second in the Dongting region, was not killed in an attack during training. Instead, Ji Fighting pretended to be friends with him and lured him to a dangerous place before killing him. That's right. There's also that young Master Yu from the Nangong clan. His status, temperament, and potential are all above Ji Fighting's. Yet he somehow went blind and became an idiot. It turned out that Ji Fighting did something to his wound when he was injured, so that the poison in his body could not be removed. That's why he became like this. Oh my God, this is so vicious. It's hard to imagine. The family Nangong was very grateful to Ji Fighting at that time, thinking that he saved young Master Yu safely. Otherwise, young Master Yu would have died. For this reason, the family Nangong funded Ji Fighting with countless cultivation resources every year, and the family Nangong has always been the family Ji's staunchest ally. The family Ji's power and development over the years can't be separated from the family Nangong's help. Oh my God, if the family Nangong knew about this, he would be so angry that he would have a cerebral hemorrhage. Also, didn't you hear? Miss Sikong, who was unparalleled and beautiful in the Dongting Pavilion, was tricked by Ji Miao Miao into being naked in public. In the end, she was so ashamed and angry that she was forced to become a nun. Yes, and the young lady of the Qing family in the Dongting Pavilion, because she gently said that Ji Miao Miao was blocking her way, she held a grudge against her and secretly disfigured her face. Oh my God, these two siblings are like a snake and a scorpion, and a vicious woman. Everyone was speechless in their hearts. When they heard Ji Feitong's words, they had no doubt that Luo Qingtong was manipulating Ji Feitong to say these words. After all, these things had happened in the Dongting Pavilion for many years. Except for the people in the Dongting Pavilion, very few people knew about it. What Ji Feitong said, and the details were very detailed. Not only that, some things were done by him personally, so he did not lack any evidence or details. According to his words, he could easily find out the truth of the matter. When the crowd heard this, it was clear at a glance. They already knew in their hearts whether these words were true or false. The family Ji's people really deserve it. Luo Xiaoqi was ready to stop after she made Qin Xiong and the others tell the truth. I didn't expect them to be so relentless. In the end, they even made Qin Xiong and the others accuse Luo Xiaoqi, saying that she controlled them to speak. Is this a slap in the face? That's right. With so many scandals being made public, Ji Fighting's reputation as a gentleman has completely collapsed. Oh my God, to think that I used to worship him. I must have been blind. Luo Mayan. And that Ji Miao Miao, who usually pretends to be a noble and inviolable legitimate daughter, turns out to be such a disgusting and vicious person. You really have a heart as vicious as snakes and scorpions. The other members of the family Ji are not good people either. Haven't you heard? They sent Ji Feiyu, the son of the first wife, to arrange a marriage, but secretly prepared to kill the other party. Now that the other party's engagement was broken off, they seized the opportunity to attack the first wife. They used to boast about being respectful to the first wife, but it was all a pretense. Chapter 2978. The crowd discussed animatedly as they looked at Ji Fighting, and the others with disdain. One could imagine how quickly these words would spread throughout the entire Dongting region after today. When Ji Feitong's words rang out, Ji Fighting and Ji Yuanquan's expressions turned extremely ugly. As for Ji Miao Miao, she let out an ah and fainted from anger. All of her image had collapsed at Ji Feitong's words. From today onwards, she would be the most vicious woman in the entire Dongting region. However, she didn't even have a chance to refute, because everything Ji Feitong said was the truth. And the things she had done weren't just limited to this. As long as someone was willing to dig, they would soon be able to dig up all the other things she had done. Ji Miao Miao couldn't imagine the impact it would cause. At this moment, Ji Fighting's collapse was no less than Ji Miao Miao's. What he had done was much more serious than Ji Miao Miao's. In order to become a unique young talent in the entire Dongting region, he had done so. He didn't know how many people he had gotten rid of openly and secretly. Those people were either eliminated by him directly, or by someone he had arranged for. In short, if they were exposed, the situation would be much more serious than Ji Miao Miao's. At this moment, he didn't even dare to say a single word. He was deeply afraid that others would find out some clues from his words. There wouldn't even be a need for an investigation. They could directly convict him of a crime. At that time, the aristocratic families who would come to seek justice would probably flatten the entire family Ji. As Ji Fighting thought of this, his heart suddenly throbbed with pain. As for Ji Yuanquan, needless to say, he had originally asked Luo Qingtong to come here to prove her innocence, in order to completely crush the psychological defenses of Ji Yuanqing and the others. He wanted them to be completely unable to defend themselves in front of the surrounding onlookers. In this way, their family Ji would dispose of them, gain a good reputation, and get rid of their own mortal enemy. However, who would have thought that Luo Qingtong would actually stage a desperate counterattack at the last moment? This B*TCH had actually hidden her intentions from the beginning, and lured them step by step to such a situation. Looking at Luo Qingtong's previous actions, it was obvious that she had a way to deal with it. But she just didn't do it, causing Ji Yuanquan and the others to mistakenly think that they had no way to deal with it. After all, no matter how one looked at it, Luo Qingtong, and the others should have no chance to refute. Ji Feiyu, this traitor, brought such a woman back to their family Ji. This bastard. Ji Yuanquan's expression was ugly, but he forgot that if they hadn't forced him step by step, there wouldn't have been such a result. But now he blamed it on Luo Qingtong, Ji Feiyu, and the others. He was simply speechless. On the other hand, Ji Feiyu, Ji Yuanquan, and the others' faces were filled with indescribable surprise. Ji Feiyu's heart was in his throat, especially when Qin Xiong and the others immediately betrayed them as soon as they were free. He was even more worried about Luo Qingtong. If he hadn't miscalculated and misjudged Ji fighting, and the others' eagerness to deal with him, Luo Qingtong wouldn't have fallen into such a situation where she was slandered and dealt with. His heart was filled with indescribable regret. He had already made up his mind. If there was really no way to refute in the end, then he would use his life in exchange for Luo Qingtong's safe departure. Presumably, when the time came, the family Ji's people would no longer be able to forcibly stop Luo Qingtong and his father from leaving in front of so many people, right? Chapter 2979. Everyone's hearts were filled with indescribable excitement. Yin Yang's tense expression also eased a little. So Master was waiting for them here. No wonder she didn't make a move before. Serves them right, these people from the Ji family. Yin Yang was gloating in her heart. These family Ji people thought that their master was a soft persimmon that they could pinch and flatten. Now they finally realized that their master wasn't a weak bun that could be bullied, but a cactus with thorns all over its body. They were really blind to deal with their master. There were also Qin Xiong, Ji Feitong, and the others. Yin Yang looked at their frightened and desperate expressions and snorted coldly in her heart. They actually thought that their master was easy to bully when she asked them to do something to her master. They had caught a handful of thorns, right? Qin Xiong and the others were dead meat. They had just coaxed the family Ji people and made the family Ji people think that they were being controlled by their master when they spoke the truth. Therefore, they had been aggressive and caused Ji Feitong to fall into their trap. What he said in the end was completely beyond the family Ji's ability to bear. If not for this, when the family Ji people knew that Luo Qingtong had the ability to make people speak the truth, they wouldn't have been so aggressive and would have chosen to keep the peace. It seemed that their master had deliberately let Qin Xiong and the others go free to see how they and the family Ji people would react. Now it seemed that they all deserved it. And Ji Feitong, this fool, had been controlled by their master and revealed so many secrets of the family Ji. Would the family Ji people let him go? Letting him die would be a light punishment. At that time, these two groups of people would definitely be tortured to death by the family Ji people. And the family Ji people would also suffer the punishment of losing their reputation. It could be said that it was a dog-eat-dog situation. Her master's personality was still the same as before. Whoever dared to deal with her, she would definitely return the favor. Moreover, she was more mature than before. As Yin Yang thought of this, she pursed her lips and smiled. There was an indescribable joy in her heart. She couldn't stand Luo Qingtong being wronged and slandered. Otherwise, he wouldn't have temporarily put down his hatred for Chu Tianyi for the sake of Luo Qingtong. Luo Qingtong was her life, her root, and her faith. The young girl was slandered and looked down upon. She felt even more pain and discomfort than herself. Now that Luo Qingtong had turned the tables and trampled the family Ji's people into the mud, Luo Qingtong's heart was filled with satisfaction. For a family of actors like the family Ji, having their fake skin torn apart was probably more painful than anything else, right? Serves them right for being hypocritical and pretentious. While Yin Yang was thinking about this, Chu Tianyi, who was beside her, looked at her expression and praised, "Our master is really amazing." Of course, Yin Yang felt proud and her gaze towards Chu Tianyi softened a little. This man was not bad. In any case, he knew to protect her master with her. As long as he could persevere and protect her master with her, from now on, she would not mention the past again and slowly walk out of it. Luo Qingtong had given her and her son a new life. She was also willing to walk out of the past for the sake of Luo Qingtong. As long as it was something beneficial to Luo Qingtong, Yin Yang would not hesitate to do it, even if it meant letting her forget the painful and miserable past. Chapter 2980. Let's go. The family Ji's elders were livid. They ignored Ji Yuanquan, Ji Fighting, and the others and left one after another. They were in cahoots with Ji Yuanquan, and the others only because Ji Yuanquan and the others were in power. In their minds, Ji Fighting was the best candidate to inherit the family Ji. But now, according to Ji Feitong, even they were shocked by what Ji Fighting had done. In particular, in order to stand out in the Dongting region, Ji Fighting didn't even spare the members of the family Ji outside, not to mention the young and promising geniuses in the family Ji. Many young talents from the elders' families were also persecuted by Ji Fighting, which made them extremely shocked and angry. Ji Miao Miao was even more vicious. All the talented and good-looking girls in the family Ji were killed by her. No one knew what was going on, and only thought that those girls were unlucky. But now it was clear that they were a threat to Ji Miao Miao, so they were killed. What was even more disgusting was that even though Ji Fighting had personally ordered people to do some of these things, in the end, he still went over to comfort the victim's elder family, and tried to rope in the other party's young talents to make them work for him. It was as if they shared a common hatred for a common enemy. He was really vicious to the extreme. The brother and sister sang the same tune, making the family Ji's elders and families count the money for them even after being sold. This scheming and viciousness really made people gasp in amazement, and it was also an eye-opener for the surrounding onlookers. The family Ji's elders were ridiculed for being blind. They actually defended Ji Fighting and the others, and even thought that they were the best candidates to inherit the family Ji. Now they finally suffered the consequences of their own actions, and retribution fell on them. The crowd left in a huff, and Ji Fighting and Ji Yuanquan both looked extremely embarrassed. They didn't dare to say anything more, and immediately left with the unconscious Ji Miao Miao. As for Ji Feitong, who was still talking with a face full of despair, he was also knocked unconscious and brought back. Luo Qingtong didn't stop them. She had set up this trap, so that Ji Feitong and the others could receive the punishment they deserved. If she let Ji Fighting and the others take him back, she could imagine what kind of punishment he would suffer. She didn't need to dirty Luo Qingtong's hands. Why wouldn't she do it? As for Ji Fighting and the other clans of the Dongting region would deal with them. Luo Qingtong didn't plan to attack them at this time. After all, Ji Feiyu's blood curse hadn't been discovered yet. And just now Luo Qingtong discovered something interesting. He was afraid that the blood curse on Ji Feiyu's body wasn't just targeted at him. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes as she thought of this. Just as they were about to leave the arena, Qin Xiong and the others rushed in front of them and kowtowed to Ji Feiyu, begging for mercy. "Young master, Miss Luo, we know we were wrong. Please forgive us." Qin Xiong and the others finally realized how stupid they had been before. They actually wanted to bite Luo Qingtong and Ji Feiyu to escape the family Ji's punishment. However, if they were to face the family Ji's punishment, although heavy, it wouldn't hurt them. Chapter 2981. The crowd didn't care about their image. They all knelt in front of Luo Qingtong and Ji Feiyu, kowtowing desperately and begging for mercy with tears and snot. However, Luo Qingtong and Ji Feiyu were indifferent. Especially Ji Feiyu. He saw with his own eyes how arrogant and hateful Qin Xiong and the others were. They made irresponsible remarks several times, and wanted to kill him and Luo Qingtong. It wouldn't be enough for such people to die hundreds of times. How could he spare them? If it weren't for Luo Qingtong turning the situation around, not to mention Luo Qingtong, even his parents wouldn't be able to escape family Ji's punishment. Now the other party actually dared to beg for mercy? They really took advantage of his kind and gentle temperament. Ji Feiyu's eyes were cold. He ignored them and walked straight ahead. Sui Yu and the others rushed forward and kicked Qin Xiong and the others. "Get lost. What happened when you were thinking about young master and little Qi's death? Good and evil will be repaid in time. Just bear with it." As they spoke, they kicked them away without hesitation. Qin Xiong and the others were in despair. Seeing that Ji Feiyu and Luo Qingtong had no intention of letting them go and didn't want to save them, they became even more daring and rushed towards Luo Qingtang, while facing Sui Yu and the others' attacks. "You bitch. It's all your fault that we ended up like this. We'll kill you." Qin Xiong and the others' faces were ferocious. They gathered all their strength and rushed towards Luo Qingtang in an extremely violent and terrifying manner. If it weren't for this bitch, how could they end up like this? If they killed her, they might be able to redeem themselves in front of Ji Fighting and the others, and let them survive. With this thought in mind, they immediately rushed towards Luo Qingtang even more ferociously. However, before their attacks could reach Luo Qingtang, boom. In an instant, a violent attack with an unstoppable force rushed toward them. In just an instant they were sent flying. "A bunch of trash. How dare you be impudent in front of our master?" Chu Tiany's voice was cold. Standing in front of Luo Qingtang, he didn't even look at Qin Xiong and the others who were sent flying. If Luo Qingtang hadn't specifically told him not to reveal his true strength, he would have already crushed Qin Xiong and the others. Luo Qingtang attacked him in front of him. Did he think that he was dead? As soon as he attacked, Ji Feiyu and the others were shocked. Especially Sui Yu and the others. They originally thought that Luo Qingtang and the others wouldn't be a match for Qin Xiong and the others. They immediately rushed over to stop Qin Xiong and the others. But they didn't expect that before they could do anything, Qin Xiong and the others had already been sent flying. Shao Qi's bodyguard was actually so powerful. This strength was at least at the early stage of the human martial realm. Such a person was actually her servant? No wonder the people of True Spill Continent were able to receive the attention and protection of the Star Alliance, even though they were from a low-level continent. They feared that it wasn't because the people of True Spill Continent were descendants of powerhouses who had made great contributions to the Star Alliance, or because there were treasures in True Spill Continent. It was because of Luo Qingtang. Everyone was surprised. Chapter 2982. F***CK. Didn't they say that the girl Ji Feiyu brought back was an ordinary girl from a low-level 9-star region? In order to climb up the family Ji's social ladder, she deliberately bewitched Ji Feiyu and made him break off the engagement with the eldest daughter of the Star Alliance of the Star Wilderness region. What the F***CK? This kind of low-level 9-star region girl, with a human martial realm guard, please give me a dozen of them. I'm willing to be bewitched. That's right. Do the family Ji people treat her like a fool? A girl with a human martial arts realm guard, like her wants to be with Ji Feiyu. Does she need to bewitch him and make him break off the engagement with Mo Zhuling to get what she wants? What a joke. That's right. The family Ji people even said that she wanted to climb up their social ladder. My God, how can they be so shameless? Don't they know how powerful the family Ji is? Ji Yuanquan has only just entered the human martial arts realm. His cultivation is only at the beginning of the human martial arts realm, right? Even so, he's only qualified to be her guard. How dare they say that she's trying to climb up their social ladder? Ha ha ha, I'm going to laugh my teeth out. The crowd was almost one-sidedly laughing at the family Ji people. If they had already believed that Luo Qingtang and Ji Feiyu were innocent after hearing what Luo Qingtang had told Ji Feitang, then they were even more convinced after seeing Chu Tiany's display of strength. Because with the strength behind Luo Qingtang's display, she was qualified to be with any young talent in the Dongting region, let alone Ji Feiyu, who was recognized as trash in the Dongting region. After all, the person behind her was an expert at the beginning of the human martial arts realm. Such a person would be considered an overlord in any 8-star domain. The family Ji was a powerful family in the Dongting region. But Ji Yuanquan's strength was only at the beginning of the human martial arts realm. Such a level of strength was only on par with the strength of Luo Qingtang's guard. What was there to be proud of? The crowd was gloating in their hearts. They only felt that the family Ji people were extremely stupid, facing such a powerful girl. They actually said that she was trying to climb up the social ladder and offend her to the point of death. Did water get into their brains? While the crowd was discussing Ji Yuanquan and Ji Feiyu, Ji had not gone far. Originally, Ji Fighting and the others were prepared to ignore Qin Xiong and the others when they went back to beg for mercy. Yuankuan 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 G G G Yuankuan G Yuankuan Yuankuan G Yuankuan G Yuankuan, yet Yuankuan Yuankuan Yukuan. They. G. Ji Feiyu and Ji Feiyu did not pay much attention to them at first, but when the mocking laughter behind them became louder and louder, and reached their ears, they realized what kind of opportunity they had missed. The girl who came with Ji Feiyu from the Star Wilderness region was only at the Sage Master realm. The guard behind her was actually at the beginning of the human martial arts realm. He sent Qin Xiong and Ji Feiyu flying with one blow. Was this true? The crowd was stunned, especially Ji Feiyu. He did not expect the strength behind Luo Qingtong to be so strong. Ji Feiyu tried hard to recall Chu Tianyi, who was behind Luo Qingtong. He could not see his strength at all. He was actually at the human martial arts realm. Such a strong cultivator was actually berated by the venerable realm maidservant behind Luo Qingtong to the point that her nose was not her nose, and her eyes were not her eyes. Chapter 2983. His expression was shocked to the extreme, followed by jealousy. Ji Feiyu actually had such a young girl by his side. With a guard in the human martial arts realm, her identity was definitely not as simple as a young girl from a low-level 9-star region. Damn it! Qin Xiong and that group of idiots had completely messed up his chance to curry favor with a young girl from a powerful family. Ji Fighting's expression was furious and shocked. Ji Feitong's expression was completely lifeless. The power behind Luo Qingtong was actually so strong. Previously, he had still gone to her and asked her to be his concubine. He had even scolded her for not knowing how to appreciate favors. Now it looked like who was the one who didn't know how to appreciate favors, and who was the one who was stupid enough to court death. If it weren't for that stupid action, perhaps Luo Qingtong wouldn't have done anything to him and used him to deal with Ji Fighting and the others, because the ones who had been dealing with Ji Feiyu and the others were not him, but Ji Fighting and the others. As Ji Feitong thought this, his heart instantly collapsed with regret. While they were still in shock, Luo Qingtong, Ji Feiyu and the others had already left the arena. Ji Yuancheng and the others were shocked by the power of Chu Tianyi behind Luo Qingtong, and their attitude towards her became even more respectful and grateful. In fact, even if Chu Tianyi hadn't revealed her power, their gratitude towards Luo Qingtong would definitely not be small. After all, if it weren't for Luo Qingtong's appearance, they and their son would never have been able to escape the persecution of Ji Fighting and the others. Anyone could see that Ji Fighting and the others had wanted to catch their entire family in one fell swoop, expel them from the family Ji, and abolish the direct line of descent. At that time, the family Ji would be under the control of the other party. Of course, reality had proven that the family Ji had long been under their control. Otherwise, why would he and his son be unable to explain themselves? As Ji Yuanqing thought this, he immediately mocked in his heart. Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent. She did not decline Ji Yuanqing's gratitude. After all, although she was clarifying things for herself, it was an indisputable fact that she had saved Ji Feiyu and the others. There was no need for her to be modest. The group chatted as they walked into Ji Feiyu's courtyard outside the family Ji. This was where Ji Feiyu usually lived. Because he did not have a good time in the family Ji, he spent most of his time in the villa. The things inside were very complete. After arriving at the villa, Ji Feiyu told Ji Yuancheng and Li Shuyi about what Luo Qingtong had told him about the blood curse. The two of them had no idea that Ji Feiyu's inability to cultivate actually hid such a sinister truth. They had searched for famous doctors and rare treasures, but the fact that Ji Feiyu could not cultivate still could not be changed. Everyone thought that Ji Feiyu was born a good-for-nothing, including themselves. But now, Ji Feiyu told them that the reason he could not cultivate was not because he was a good-for-nothing. It was because someone had put a curse on him, and it was an extremely vicious soul blood curse. The two of them felt that the sky was about to fall. Fortunately, Ji Feiyu later told them that Luo Qingtong could cure him. Moreover, she came back with him this time to solve the problem of the soul blood curse in his body. When Ji Yuancheng and Li Shuyi heard this, They almost wanted to kneel down in front of Luo Qingtang. To them, their son was the most important thing. For Ji Feiyu, Ji Yuansheng, and Li Shiyi could ask to leave the clan. They even ran around for more than 10 years, just to find a way to prolong Ji Feiyu's life. Now that they could finally get what they wanted, how could they not be excited? While the two of them were excited, Luo Qingtang looked at Ji Yuansheng seriously and said, "Uncle, if I'm not wrong." Chapter 2984. As soon as she said that, Ji Yuansheng's expression froze. He looked at Luo Qingtang and said with some difficulty, "Miss Xiaoqi, why do you say that?" When he spoke, his tone was 30% hopeful and 70% hopeful. He looked at Luo Qingtang with a cautious expression. Luo Qingtang looked at him and said with a deep expression, "My abilities have not fully recovered, so I am not very accurate. But Uncle Ji, your body has an aura similar to Ji Feiyu's. If I'm not wrong, the soul blood curse on you and him should be of the same origin. It's just that the blood curse on you is not as vicious as his soul blood curse." Luo Qingtang naturally had her reasons for saying that. Although her bloody eyes had not fully recovered, she had helped block Ji Feiyu's soul blood curse. She was very sensitive to the aura of the soul blood curse. The moment she saw Ji Yuansheng, she had already sensed that Ji Yuansheng had an aura similar to the soul blood curse on Ji Feiyu's body, but it was much fainter. If she guessed correctly, the reason why Ji Yuansheng's cultivation had not improved for so many years was probably because of this blood curse. As for why Ji Yuansheng's blood curse was weaker than Ji Feiyu's, Luo Qingtang thought that it was probably because Ji Feiyu's aptitude was many times better than Ji Yuansheng's. Therefore, the person who had originally cursed Ji Yuansheng had abandoned him and cursed Ji Feiyu. As she thought this, she immediately said to Ji Yuansheng, "Uncle Ji, when your strength stopped falling, was it when Ji Feiyu was born?" As soon as her words left her mouth, Ji Yuansheng's expression froze. He looked at Luo Qingtang and nodded with difficulty. Yes, Luo Qingtang said that when his strength stopped falling, it meant that she knew that his strength was constantly falling. Ji Yuansheng recalled the past. Back then, he was full of vigor and had broken through to the 9th level of the Purple Venerable Realm early on. He was only waiting for the last step to break through to the human martial arts realm and inherit the position of patriarch. The people of the Dongting region, the thousands of high-class continents, and the forces of countless regions all thought that he would amaze the world with a single brilliant feat and become the fastest cultivator to break through to the human martial arts realm in the Dongting region. However, things did not go as he wished. One morning, he suddenly discovered that his strength was constantly dropping. What kind of terrible experience was that? Ji Yuansheng didn't want to think about it anymore. He only knew that his strength was dropping at an extremely frightening speed, and this drop was simply irreversible. No matter how hard he tried, no matter how hard he tried, no matter how many elixirs he consumed, no matter how many rare herbs he swallowed, no matter how hard he tried, 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 no matter how hard he and that period of time was when Ji Yuansheng was at his most devastated. Just as his strength was about to drop from the venerable realm, Ji Feiyu was born. After that, his strength stopped falling. At that time, he thought that his son was a lucky star, but he didn't expect that he couldn't cultivate from the moment he was born. Ji Yuansheng had always blamed himself. He felt that when his strength inexplicably dropped back then, he must have inherited something to Ji Feiyu. As a result, when his son was born, he had to bear the infamy of being a good-for-nothing. He also did his best to treat Ji Feiyu well. But now, it seemed that the person who caused the tragedy of him and his son back then was not himself, but the person who secretly cursed him. Chapter 2985. As Ji Yuanqing thought of this, he immediately gritted his teeth until they bled. Bastard! He squeezed these two words out from between his teeth. His heart was filled with extreme hatred. For the sake of Ji Feiyu's inability to cultivate in his strength, the father and son had suffered so much, and how much humiliation and ridicule had they suffered. But now, he learned that all of this was man-made. The person behind the scenes. He must make him suffer a fate worse than death. Ji Yuanqing's heart was filled with hatred. At this moment, Li Shui also gritted her teeth and said in a deep voice, Ji Yuanquan Ji fighting. It must be the father and son. There was a reason for Li Shui's suspicion. Ji Yuanquan and Ji fighting were of the same origin, and they rose to power almost at the same time. Just as Ji Yuanqing's strength continued to decline, Ji Yuanquan's strength increased by leaps and bounds, and he rose to power later. And Ji fighting was also born after Ji Feiyu was identified as a good-for-nothing. After that, he had always carried the name of the family Ji's genius, and had been glorious for more than 20 years. As Li Shui thought of this, even her voice was so cold that it seemed like ice shards were about to fall. If Ji fighting and his son were really the culprits, then she would definitely make them pay with blood. She would not be merciful. When her voice sounded, Luo Qingtong shook her head and said, I don't know if it's the two of them. For the time being, we shouldn't alert the enemy. Luo Qingtong's blood pupil had been overused, because she had helped Ji Feiyu obtain the ability at the marriage proposal banquet. She had not fully recovered yet, so she could not see the connection between Ji Feiyu and Ji Yuanqing, and the mastermind behind the scenes. Therefore, it was not appropriate to alert the enemy at this time. Otherwise, if the mastermind behind the scenes saw through it, Luo Qingtong's blood pupil had not recovered yet, so she could not save Ji Feiyu and Ji Yuanqing when the other party activated the blood curse at the same time. As for Li Shui, ever since she found out that Luo Qingtong could treat Ji Feiyu, and told her about Ji Yuanqing's past, she no longer doubted her. Hearing this, she immediately nodded and said, All right, Miss Xiaoqi, don't worry, I'll listen to you. Luo Qingtong immediately chuckled and said, Well, Auntie Li, you don't have to be particularly worried. The family Ji's people won't be able to escape. You can take this opportunity to watch the show. After all, it's a family Ji show. As for Uncle Ji and Ji Feiyu, during this period of time, Uncle Ji can treat his hand. As for Feiyu, he can increase his strength first. When the time comes, let's see how the family Ji people react. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes as she said this. The family Ji people had suffered such a huge setback this time. If Ji fighting and the others were indeed the mastermind behind it, they would definitely not be able to resist taking action. By then, even if Luo Qingtong's blood pupil had not recovered, she would be able to easily identify the culprit. Once they found the culprit, the rest would be easy. When Luo Qingtong said this, Ji Feiyu, Ji Yuanquan, and the others' faces suddenly lit up. Xiaoqi, my father's hand can be cured? Ji Feiyu's face was filled with surprise. He almost thought that this was a dream. Luo Qingtong being able to cure his blood curse was enough of a surprise. However, he did not expect that she could also cure his father's hand. He originally thought that she was only good at curing this kind of evil curse. Chapter 2986. Luo Qingtong chuckled. Looking at Ji Yuanqing and Li Shui's excited eyes, she said, Yes, and it's not that difficult. Although Luo Qingtong's eye technique had not fully recovered, she could still use basic vision. Otherwise, how could she have escaped from a group of black-clothed men and silver-clothed guards when she first crossed over? However, the most basic vision could not see the hidden power behind the soul blood curse. Naturally, there was no way to see its traces and connections. Therefore, Luo Qingtong asked Ji Feiyu and Li Shui to wait, so as not to alert the enemy and cause a matter that could be easily solved to end up in a lose-lose situation. That would not be beautiful. What's more, She had to get the power of the blood curse controlled by the mastermind behind the scenes. Otherwise, wouldn't this trip have been in vain? Luo Qingtong's words rang out. In an instant, Ji Yuanqing and Li Shiyi's eyes filled with tears. Husband, did you hear that? Your hand can still be saved. Not only will your strength be restored in the future, even your hand can be healed. Husband. Li Shiyi covered her mouth, her face full of unspeakable excitement. God knows how many years their family had waited for this moment. Ji Feiyu's face was also full of excitement and joy. His father's health had always been a knot in his heart. And now his life was finally complete. Little Seven, I really don't know how to thank you. He looked at the peerlessly beautiful and devilishly charming girl in front of him, and his heart thumped violently. How could he thank her? She was like a beam of light that suddenly shone into his life, illuminating his life. Ji Feiyu did not know what his life would have been like if he had not gone to the Star Wilderness and met Luo Qingtong. Perhaps he would have died helplessly after enduring extreme humiliation and trampling. Or perhaps he would have been used as fertilizer for his strength, dying an unnatural death, in all kinds of misery and helplessness. And no matter what, his parents could not have been spared. They had worked hard for him for half their lives, but he did not even have the ability to repay them. He even implicated them to suffer humiliation and torture for him, and finally went to the Yellow Springs with him. And all of this was avoided because of Luo Qingtong's existence. Ji Feiyu did not know what salvation and faith felt like in this world. But if there was, it must be the feeling that Luo Qingtong gave him. Bright, wanton, confident, dominating, soaring, in this world, she was incomparably unbridled. But in her heart, such a beautiful woman already had a sweetheart. Thinking like this, the light in his eyes, the light. He recalled Luo Qingtong's bright eyes and spirited expression when she mentioned that she had a fiancé in the convoy. At first, he didn't know what kind of expression, that expression. But now he knew. She must love her fiancé very much. Even when she mentioned him, her face was incomparably cheerful and sweet. That was an atmosphere that no one could get involved in. Thinking like this, Ji Feiyu's heart instantly ached. In the past, he did not care about Luo Qingtong's words that she had a fiancé. But when he thought of it now, he felt that his heart was so tight that he could not breathe. Usually I don't miss her. That's why I miss her. And that's why I miss her. Thinking like this, he pinched the corner of his clothes and slowly lowered his head. Sometimes, if you were one step late, would you be slow for a lifetime? Ji Feiyu did not know, but he knew that he might have missed Luo Qingtong's life. Chapter 2987. Ji Feiyu's face turned pale. Luo Qingtong did not see it, because he had lowered his head. Hearing his words, she smiled and said, "It's all right. Don't forget that helping you is also helping myself. All right, all of you can go back and rest. I'll send you the list of medicinal herbs that Uncle Ji needs later. When the time comes, just find the herbs according to the list and send them over." Li Shiyi immediately agreed after hearing Luo Qingtong's words. "All right, Miss Xiaoqi, have a good rest." As she said this, she left with Ji Feiyu and the others. As for Yin Yang and Chu Tianyi, they both returned to their own rooms. Of course, it was a separate room. Yin Yang would not let Chu Tianyi take advantage of her. She had not completely forgiven him. How could she let him get close to her so quickly? Chu Tianyi was about to shamelessly follow her into her room, when she slammed the door so hard that it almost hit him in the face. Yin Yang snorted coldly and said, "If you dare to take a step in without my permission, what we talked about before will be completely null and void." What did she talk about before? Of course, she was talking about getting back together with him. When Chu Tianyi heard this, his footsteps, which were originally about to continue forward, immediately stopped. The door in front of him was not an obstacle at all. However, he did not dare to take a step forward in the face of Yin Yang's words. Forget it. He still had a long life ahead of him. As long as she was willing to be with him, he was not afraid that she would not be able to untie the knot in her heart. As Chu Tianyi thought of this, he rubbed his nose and returned to the room next to Yin Yang's. Luo Qingtong was in her room. After taking a simple bath, she lay on the bed and took out the 9 phoenix ring from her storage ring to examine it carefully. I wonder what that man is doing now. As she thought of this, she gently stroked the pattern of the 9 netherworld phoenix ring and put it on her ring finger. Then, she raised her hand and took it off. Looking at the 9 nether phoenix ring being taken out without any hindrance, Luo Qingtong frowned slightly. The fact that the ring had been removed so easily meant that Yi Qianxian's ring was still sealed. That man was protecting her in his own way, wasn't he? He hadn't come to the star-desolate domain to look for her for so long. Was he held back by the matters in Tiandu? As Luo Qingtong thought of this, her brows furrowed even more tightly. Thinking of the scene when she left the abandoned continent, Luo Qingtong's eyes turned cold. Tiandu? Trying to stop her from being with Yi Qianxian was simply a pipe dream. Sooner or later, she would personally go to Tiandu and tell the emperor of Tiandu how blind he was. At this time, Luo Qingtong did not want to cause trouble for Yi Qianxian. That man was protecting her. She could not let anyone have the chance to use her to disturb his mind. As she thought of this, she immediately put the 9 nether phoenix ring back into her storage ring. At this time, in a certain territory many miles away from the Dongting region, Yi Qianxian was lying on the bed, looking at the sealed Shifeng dragon ring in his hand. Just then, there was a sudden sound of footsteps outside. Master! Chapter 2988. Good. Yi Qianxian's eyes were ice cold. He straightened himself and stood up from the bed. With a wave of his hand, he put on a robe that was hanging at the side. Beneath the fluttering sleeves and golden patterns he strode away. Immediately send out orders to the other members of Black Nether Palace. Have them block off all channels that Heaven Capital uses to reach True Spill Continent. I don't want to see anyone related to Heaven Capital appear on the border of True Spill Continent. Also, have the people of Black Nether Palace increase their attacks on Heaven Capital. I want them to have no time to attack True Spill Continent. Yi Qianxian's voice was ice cold. As soon as he left the abandoned continent, he knew that Heaven Capital's emperor and the others would not give up. Now he really did see them attack True Spill Continent. Unfortunately, Heaven Capital's people had already missed the best opportunity to attack True Spill Continent. If they had recklessly attacked True Spill Continent the first time they found him, Yi Qianxian might not have been able to completely stop them at that time. But now, since he already knew that the people of Heaven Capital knew the location of the True Spill Continent, and Luo Qingtong just happened to return, how could he not be on guard? If Heaven Capital's people wanted to injure Luo Qingtong from his hands, that was simply a dream. And if they wanted to use this to force him to return, then that was even more ridiculous. The greatest mistake that Heaven Capital's people made was that they didn't think that he would be the Lord of Black Nether Palace. As Yi Qianxian thought this, he coldly snorted and strode outside. Black Nether Palace's people had just been recalled, and their internal situation wasn't completely stable yet. Yi Qianxian still needed to oversee this place. Once things stabilized here, he would immediately go to Star Desolate region to look for Luo Qingtong. That woman, he didn't know if she was thinking of him. As Yi Qianren thought of this, a hint of warmth and gentleness appeared in her cold and sharp eyes. The light in his eyes softened a lot. Bei Qing, Feng Yu, and the others, who were originally suffocated by the cold and sharp aura on his body, breathed a sigh of relief. They knew in their hearts that their master was most likely thinking about the evil doctor again. Only when he thought of the evil doctor would his master's cold and terrifying aura, so cold that it could almost turn into a blade, be slightly restrained. Heaven Capital's people had truly provoked their master. They feared that Heaven Capital's army would suffer heavy casualties. His Majesty really underestimated Master. He thought that Master's strength would not be able to be fully displayed due to the heavenly vein body's limit. However, she did not know that her master had met a demon like the evil doctor. The drawbacks of the heavenly vein body in her body had been greatly alleviated. If it weren't for the fact that the strength of the evil doctor was not enough to completely cure the master, Heaven Capital would have been turned upside down. How could His Majesty and the others have the chance to use the evil doctor to threaten Master? As the crowd thought of this, they felt an indescribable sense of comfort and relief. They had tolerated it for long enough. Since their master's retirement, Heaven Capital's people had come to bully them. It was simply unbearable. This time, they had directly bullied their master's heart. Let's see how their master will deal with them. The group of people followed Yi Qianren as they strode out. At this time, in Ji Feiyu's residence in Dongting region. Chapter 2989. Someone from the family Nangong. Luo Qingtong looked surprised. She looked at Ji Feiyu, who nodded. Yes, someone from the family Nangong. The head of the family Nangong personally brought someone here to thank you. Little Seven, are you willing to see him? If you're not willing, I'll reject him for you. When Ji Feiyu said this, Luo Qingtong roughly knew what was going on. The family Nangong. That day in the central arena, she had asked Ji Feitong to reveal the conspiracy and secrets of Ji fighting and the others. Among them, it seemed that a young master from the family Nangong had been blinded by Ji fighting and had become a fool. And this family Nangong seemed to be very grateful to Ji fighting. Over the years he had taken advantage of them. So, was he here to thank her for letting them know the truth? As Luo Qingtong thought this, she suddenly laughed. She could already imagine the scene of Ji fighting and the others being in a terrible fix and being betrayed by their friends and family. What Ji Feitong had said at that time was all true. As long as someone investigated, they would be able to find clues from the details revealed in his words. At that time, the things that Ji fighting had done could not be hidden at all. Luo Qingtong even heard Ji Feiyu say that because of Ji Feitong's words at that time, everyone in the Dongting region who knew about this matter, who had encountered even the slightest bit of misfortune, would ferociously investigate to the death. At this time, the entire Dongting region was in an uproar. It could be seen that in the future, many sinister things that Ji fighting had done but Ji Feitong had not participated in would be dug up. At that time, Ji fighting and the others would suffer. As she thought this, she immediately smiled at Ji Feiyu and said, "Okay, then let's meet." In any case, she had nothing to do in Ji Feiyu's residence. And the news of her meeting with the family Nangong might even make Ji fighting and the others fly into a rage and become restless. This made them even faster to act in desperation. With this in mind, Luo Qingtong immediately went to the hall with Ji Feiyu and the others. In the hall, the family Nangong and the family Nangong were already waiting. When they saw Luo Qingtong, they hurriedly stood up. The family Nangong thanked Luo Qingtong. "Miss Xiaoqi, it's all thanks to you that our family Nangong was able to see the true colors of Ji fighting and the others. This is a small token of appreciation that we prepared. We heard that you were looking for these medicinal herbs, and our family Nangong happened to have some, so we sent them over. In addition, we've already sent people to find Ji fighting and the others to settle the score. All these years, we want Ji fighting to spit out all the things that he took from our family Nangong. When the time comes, we'll give them to you as a token of appreciation. At the same time, we'll also express our disrespect to young Master Ji when we didn't know what was right and wrong." The family Nangong's expression was very sincere. He waved his hand and had people send a pile of things over. Luo Qingtong took a look. These were the medicinal herbs that she had asked Ji Feiyu and the others to collect during this period of time that could treat Ji Yuancheng. Although it wasn't complete, it was obvious that the family Nangong had put in a lot of effort. And the resources that Ji fighting had obtained from the family Nangong over the years were not a small amount. Luo Qingtong smiled lightly. She nodded at the family Nangong and said, "Okay, thank you family Nangong. You're so considerate." Chapter 2990. When things were going smoothly for Ji fighting and the others, everything was naturally good. Now that they had suffered a backlash, they finally knew what it meant to bring evil upon oneself was the hardest to bear. Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent. She accepted these gifts without batting an eyelid. However, she would not accept family Nangong's gifts for free. There were so many aristocratic families who had been cheated by Ji fighting and the others, but only family Nangong came to give her gifts. Luo Qingtong still had a balance in her heart. Since family Nangong's people had such intentions, she would naturally reciprocate. Was young Master Yu bitten by the 9 poisons and 5 evil spider? Luo Qingtong heard the onlookers vaguely mention this before, so she said to Family Nangong's master, "If Family Nangong's master believes me, you can go to the 9 poisons and 5 evil spiders' nest to pick a stalk of herb. That herb is in the shape of a light yellow water droplet. After squeezing it into water, mix it with the 9 poisons and 5 evil spiders' inner bladder, and give it to him. There should be a cure, but I'm afraid it will be difficult for his cultivation aptitude to return to the past." When she said this, Family Nangong's people were instantly stunned. Family Nangong's master also looked at Luo Qingtong with shock and excitement. Miss Xiaoqi, is this true?" His voice was trembling. Those who were harmed by Ji fighting were basically young talents who were more powerful than him. He was known as the #1 genius in Family Nangong. But in reality, he was not the most powerful in the Dongting region. As for young Master Yu, he was the most outstanding among the Family Nangong's younger generation. His death was a huge blow to Family Nangong, now that they heard Luo Qingtong say that he could recover, but he would not be able to return to his previous aptitude. Everyone felt as if they had been hit by a pie. This was because there was a huge difference between having one more genius disciple and one less genius disciple. Not to mention a genius disciple like young Master Yu. Even if he did not have the amazing aptitude he had in the past, he would still be a great help to the Family Nangong. Good. Miss Xiaoqi, I'll send someone to do it immediately. As long as it's effective, the Family Nangong will do our best to help you in the future. With that, he hurriedly led the Family Nangong away. Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent as she watched the Family Nangong people leave. She smiled faintly without saying anything. If that young Master Yu from the Family Nangong woke up, wouldn't Ji fighting's life be even more difficult? Let's see how long they can last. It wouldn't be long before the fox's tail would be exposed. When the head of the Family Nangong and the others left in a hurry, a Family Nangong disciple couldn't help but ask, "Uncle, can we trust Luo Xiaoqi's words? Don't tell me she's trying to trick us? But I've never heard of a 9 poisons and 5 evil spider being cured in such a way." "That's right, Grandpa." Another Nangong family clan disciple also followed up and said, "Our Nangong family clan's people searched for who knows how many famous doctors for Yinyu's poison. They all said that there was no cure, that the poison had already entered the heart. How could she treat it so easily? And so easily? We've never heard of such a treatment method." "That's right." The Family Nangong people discussed animatedly. They didn't quite believe Luo Qingtong. The head of the Family Nangong reprimanded them. "What do you know? A bunch of idiots." As he said this, he suddenly took a deep breath and said to the group of Nangong family people, "From now on, no one is allowed to be disrespectful to Miss Luo. Not only that, in the future, you can only serve Ji Feiyu and the others. You must try your best to satisfy their requests." Chapter 2991. Let them make a choice. Should we continue to protect Ji Feiyu and the others? Or should we send Ji Feiyu and the others back? If it's the former, then don't blame us for being impolite. The Family Nangong's face was cold, but he couldn't help but feel excited. He suspected that Luo Qingtong was the little 7th young master who had caused a stir in the Heavenly Wind region and the Flying Star region. After the incident on the abandoned continent, although not everyone saw Luo Qingtong and Yi Qianming together, news about her still spread in the 2 star regions. It even spread to the surrounding star regions. The Family Nangong's master happened to have something to do before, so he went on a trip to the outer region. He happened to pass by the star regions around the Heavenly Wind region and heard about Luo Qingtong. Therefore, after learning that the woman brought back by Ji Feiyu was called Luo Xiaoqi, and that she was followed by a human martial realm expert as a servant, he wanted to take a look and thank her. After all, there were many people called Luo Xiaoqi, but they were of the same age and were followed by experts. These viewpoints were not easy to match. Luo Qingtong didn't expect that there would be people in the true Spill continent who knew about her in the Heavenly Wind region. Therefore, when she reported her name to Ji Feiyu, she didn't make any special effort to hide it. Now, The family Nangong's master guessed that she might be the little seventh young master, from the way she mentioned the antidote to the 9 poison 5 evil spider. Although he didn't know how she suddenly became a woman, Luo Qingtong's ability was very unique. The family Nangong's master had already determined Luo Qingtong's identity. It was just that Luo Qingtong obviously wanted to hide it, so he didn't say anything. Not only that, he didn't say anything to the Nangong family in case Luo Qingtong's identity was exposed, and they were unhappy. Thinking of Luo Qingtong's identity as the little seventh young master, the family Nangong's master felt a burst of excitement. On the other hand, the family Nangong members were stunned. They did not understand why the head of the family Nangong would be so protective of Luo Qingtong. After all, even if the other party could cure Nangong Yinyu's poison, there was no need for them to act like this, right? Wasn't the patriarch going overboard? They were confused, but they did not dare to refute the family Nangong's words. The group went straight back to family Nangong. At this time, in the family Ji Yuanquan, Ji Fighting, and the others also received the news that the family Nangong had gone to Ji Feiyu's residence to thank them. Immediately, Ji Yuanquan's expression became furious. Bastard! He gritted his teeth. Ji Feiyu and the others, on the other hand, had soared into the sky. Where did that bitch named Luo Shaoqi come from? Damn it! Ji Yuanquan was furious. He couldn't believe that he had planned for half his life, and was about to completely control the family Ji in his hands, and get rid of Ji Yuanqing and the others. But at this time such a thing happened. Now their family was completely hated by everyone in the Dongting region. And they couldn't stay in the family Ji any longer, because those elders could no longer stand what they had done, and the trouble they had brought to the family Ji. According to the news Ji Yuanquan received, those people were ready to join forces to deprive him of the position of the family Ji. At that time, they could only be driven out of the family Ji. Thinking of this, Ji Yuanquan's face suddenly showed an extremely gloomy and cold expression. At this time, Ji Fighting's voice sounded. Chapter 2992. The moment he said that, Ji Yuanquan's face was filled with shock. That method? He looked at his son, whom he relied on the most. Ji Fighting's expression was fierce. Father, I know you don't want to take that step unless it's absolutely necessary. But look, it's only been a short while, and those families have already come knocking on our door. In the future, there will be more and more of these people. And these people in the family Ji obviously don't want us to stay in the family Ji anymore. If we don't use that method, are we really going to let them chase us out of the family Ji? At this point he paused and said coldly, Father, you've used so many methods to get the family Ji. Now that all your efforts have been in vain, can you tolerate it? And those families that we've offended, once we leave the family Ji, they won't let it go. Now that we've come to this point, we might as well go all the way. At this point, Ji Fighting's voice was unusually vicious and heartless. He wasn't wrong. Luo Qingtong's reversal was too fast and effective. They didn't expect her to have such ability. And the words that came out of Ji Feitong's mouth were so detailed that they could almost be considered evidence. Ji Fighting and the others couldn't defend themselves at all. Under such circumstances, even if they wanted to twist the truth and say that Luo Qingtong was slandering them, no one would believe them. That was why Ji Fighting said that. They had already been completely turned around by Luo Qingtong and missed the opportunity. If they didn't act ruthlessly now, it would be too late. As soon as he said that, Ji Yuanquan's expression slowly changed. Fine. If they're heartless, I won't be righteous. Ji Yuanquan's expression was vicious. His voice was the same as his expression, carrying a sinister and vicious look. He didn't want to do this at first. But now it was those people in the family Ji who had forced him. Let's go, I'll take you to see that lord. As Ji Yuanquan said that, he immediately led Ji Fighting to the secret room behind him. The two of them opened the door of the secret room and walked in. Soon, they appeared in a huge underground cave. Lord! In the underground cave, an extremely ferocious statue appeared in front of Ji Yuanquan and Ji Fighting. The statue's expression was extremely ferocious and terrifying. It had a green face and fangs, and its eyes were protruding. There were two huge sharp horns on its head. When Ji Yuanquan and Ji Fighting spoke, the statue's eyes suddenly moved, and then focused on the two of them. "What are you doing here?" The statue's voice was unusually sharp and gloomy. It sounded like something sharp was rubbing against each other, causing a teeth-numbing sound. Ji Fighting and Ji Yuanquan didn't even dare to raise their heads. It wasn't the first time the two of them had come here, but every time he came in and saw this statue, he still felt a chill in his heart. That's right, Ji Yuanquan and Ji Fighting relied on this statue. This statue was discovered by Ji Yuanquan during a training session in a mystic realm. He had already forgotten how he had discovered the abnormality of the statue and how he had awakened the soul within the statue. But he knew that it was because of this statue. Chapter 2993. Back then, there were countless genius descendants like Ji Yuanquan in the family Ji. The glory of the direct descendants. Ji Yuanquan's strength was not bad among the concubines, but compared to those genius descendants of the direct descendants, he was not worth mentioning at all. Not to mention compared to the previous proud son of heaven, the destined successor of the family Ji Yuanqing. However, after obtaining this statue, Ji Yuanquan's strength continued to advance by leaps and bounds. Not only that, the geniuses of the direct descendants fell one after another, and their strength stagnated. All of this was because this statue had absorbed their souls and essence, transferring their strength and aptitude to Ji Yuanquan. Even Ji Fighting's current strength and status had come about because of this. Why did Ji Fighting secretly harm so many family descendants outside? Other than the fact that the other party's strength and aptitude were above his, which made him jealous. The other reason was that the power of those people's souls could allow him to obtain a little more power from this statue. Otherwise, with the current situation of the family Ji's genius descendants withering, how could he maintain his genius persona? The two of them relied on this method to continuously rise to the top. Now that the matter was exposed, they naturally had to come here to ask for protection. "Sir." Ji Yuanquan lowered his head and said, "What we did outside has been exposed. Sir, please help us." Hee. Hearing his words, the statue suddenly laughed. It looked at Ji Yuanquan and Ji Fighting and said sinisterly, "I told you to listen to me back then. What you did will be exposed sooner or later. Why don't you just sacrifice all the people of the family Ji? When I recover my true body, I will definitely give you supreme power. It will not be stronger than you guarding this family Ji now, but you are unwilling. Why, now you know to beg me." Hee. The statue mocked sharply. Ji Yuanquan and Ji Fighting could not refute it after a single sentence. It was not that they were unwilling at that time, but they were afraid that after this statue recovered its true body, they would no longer be able to suppress it. At that time, who knew what it would do to them? Over the years, they had gained some understanding of the strength of this statue. It could be said to be unprecedented and shocking. They were both shocked and excited. At the same time, they were also very scared. If the statue really left the current scene and recovered its true form, who knew what it would do to them in the end? What if it didn't fulfill its promise in the end, and instead killed them, and turned them into part of its body's power? Where would they go to cry? Therefore, the father and son had never agreed to this matter. But now, it was obvious that the family Ji could no longer tolerate them. The entire Dongting region saw them as scourges. What did they have to be afraid of? He might as well take a gamble and let the statue recover its true form. At that time, let's see if there are any clans in the Dongting region that would dare to raise their voices and demand justice from them. As Ji Yuanquan thought this, the expression on his face was extremely sinister. He looked at the statue and said, "We were wrong. We thought that the family Ji's people were related to us by blood, so we couldn't do it. So I thought of slowly restoring your strength and true body, my lord. That way it would be safer." Chapter 2994. At the mention of Luo Qingtong, Ji Yuanquan gritted his teeth. He said to the statue, "Sir, now the family Ji wants to punish us, and the other families are not willing to let us go. We don't need to think about them anymore." As soon as Ji Yuanquan said that, The statue laughed even more sharply. All right, the two of you don't have to put on an act in front of me. If your matter hadn't been exposed this time, I'm afraid you wouldn't have been willing to sacrifice the family G's people, right? Hee. But it doesn't matter, as long as you're willing now. My promise has always been valid. But before that, I have to absorb the energy essence of that boy named Ji Feiyu. Otherwise, the energy I've accumulated is not enough to convert all the energy from the blood sacrifice of so many people. The words of the statue were exactly what Ji Fighting and Ji Yuanquan had been hoping for. In the end, this matter was caused by Ji Feiyu. Wasn't it good to be a good-for-nothing and be bullied by others? But he brought back that B*TCH Luo Xiaoqi, forcing them to take risks. If they couldn't get anything good out of it, Ji Feiyu wouldn't either. He could have lived for a few more years. Now he could go to hell. Everything is up to you, sir. Then we'll go down and prepare. We'll do it in 3 days. Okay. The voice of the statue laughed. When the time comes, you can directly lead the family G's people into the blood sacrifice array. As for Ji Feiyu's family, I'll deal with them. As soon as it said that, Ji Yuanquan and Ji Fighting both quickly agreed. At this moment in the family Ji, Luo Qingtong was carefully examining the injury on Ji Yuanqing's arm. Ji Yuanqing's injury was indeed very serious. The meridians on his left arm were almost all torn. It was said that torn bones and flesh were easy to heal. At most, it would take some time to heal the muscles and bones. However, the broken meridians were almost impossible to heal. Even if it healed, it would be impossible for it to return to its original unobstructed state. As a result, the injury on Ji Yuanqing's arm had been delayed until now. However, it was different in Luo Qingtong's hands. She easily connected the meridians in Ji Yuanqing's arm. Not only that, she even gave him a few strands of the 1,000 silkworm thread that she had obtained from the abandoned continent. After all, Ji Yuanqing's left arm had been injured for too long. If he didn't use the 1,000 silkworm's threads to connect them, the meridians in his arms would be much weaker than the rest of his body, since they hadn't been trained for a long time. At that time, it would definitely become a weakness of his body. Luo Qingtong helped him to the end. She also used a few threads of 1,000 silkworms to heal the meridians in his left hand. There was no difference between the meridians in his left hand and the meridians in other places. As for the medicinal herbs that Ji Feiyu and the others found, she also refined them into medicinal pills for Ji Yuanqing to consume. With this two-pronged approach, the strength of Ji Yuanqing's left hand would recover to its original state in less than 2 days. Ji Feiyu and Li Shiyi were originally very nervous, afraid that there would be another problem. In the end, when Luo Qingtong told them that it had been cured and that there would be no difference in their strength in the future, the two of them were so happy that they cried. Ji Yuanqing's face was also full of surprise and shock. He knew what the situation with his left hand was, so he also knew what it meant for Luo Qingtong to be able to restore his left hand to its original state. The other party's medical skills were simply godly. Was their family really in the midst of a storm of misfortune? Otherwise, how could they know such a young girl? Chapter 2995. The family Nangong clan had come to visit. This time, the family Nangong clan master had brought Nangong Yinyu with him. Nangong Yinyu, who was known as Nangong Jiyu, young master Yu, was wearing white clothes and appeared in front of Luo Qingtong, Ji Feiyu and the others. He did not have the slightest bit of madness and blindness as the rumors said. However, Luo Qingtong could still see from the fatigue and vicissitudes in his eyes that what he had experienced was not an illusion. Congratulations on your recovery, young master Yu. She smiled and nodded at Nangong Yinyu. The latter also nodded and cupped his hands in return. Thank you, Lady Xiaoqi. These years were like a dream. If it wasn't for Lady Xiaoqi, I would still be muddle-headed and would not know the ugliness and hypocrisy of this world. It is more terrifying than I imagined. Nangong Yinyu said with a mocking smile. He used to believe in Ji Fighting, but now he felt how stupid he was. He dared to believe in such a snake and scorpion. Not only that, he even entrusted his life to him. If it wasn't for Luo Qingtong saving him, He might not even know that it was Ji Fighting who did it to him. Not to mention that Ji Fighting used his name to get a lot of benefits from the family Nangong. After Nangong Yinyu spoke, the family Nangong clan master also said, "Lady Xiaoqi, it is all thanks to you this time. Otherwise, Yinyu would definitely not be able to wake up again. Our family Nangong doesn't know how to repay the grace of rebirth. This is what we got from the family Ji. Ji Fighting has taken the resources from us all these years. Please accept it, Lady Xiaoqi." In addition, the family Nangong clan master said in a deep voice, "If Lady Xiaoqi has any instructions, please do not hesitate to say it. We have already sent people to inform the family Ji to make a choice between young Master Feiyu's family and Ji Fighting's family. I believe there will be an answer soon. Our family Nangong will always stand by young Master Feiyu's side." Luo Qingtong was astonished when she heard the family Nangong's words. Wasn't the family Nangong making a huge sacrifice this time? Putting aside the family Nangong resources that Ji Fighting had given her before, they were just inanimate objects after all. However, this time, Ji Feiyu's side had nothing, and Ji Feiyu's ability to cultivate had not been made public yet. If the people of the family Nangong were already on his side, wouldn't they be afraid of severely hindering their development in the future? After all, supporting a piece of trash was a joke in everyone's eyes. Even if the people of the family Nangong knew how to repay kindness, there was no need for them to do something that was detrimental to the development of their family, right? However, the family Nangong's attitude was sincere, so Luo Qingtong did not refuse. After all, it didn't matter what the other party thought. This was a good thing for Ji Feiyu and the others. Luo Qingtong originally wanted to help Ji Feiyu and the others find a helper, so that she could leave here without worry. Before she could find a helper, the people of the family Nangong came knocking. Since that was the case, then she would choose them. After she nodded in agreement, the family Nangong's head was very happy in his heart. He originally wanted to build a relationship with Luo Qingtong, and now he wanted to build a relationship with Ji Feiyu and the others. After all, the other party had made Luo Qingtong spend a lot of effort, and it was not something an ordinary friendship could compare to. The family Nangong's head thought so, and his face was immediately filled with a smile. When he left with Nangong Yinyu, Sueyu and the others suddenly rushed in from outside. "Young master, little 7. Chapter 2996. Hearing that, Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed. Ji Feiyu, Ji Yuancheng, and the others said in low voices, "That's impossible. Ji Yuankuan and the others wouldn't be so generous. Little 7, there's a conspiracy." Ji Feiyu looked at Luo Qingtong worriedly. He didn't believe that Ji Yuankuan and Ji Fighting would have such courage and magnanimity. They actually took the initiative to abdicate and let their family return to the position of family head. Let's not talk about how sudden this decision was. Just based on Ji Fighting and Ji Yuankuan's personalities, they weren't that kind of people. Just as he was thinking this, Luo Qingtong smiled faintly and said, "Of course, it seems like the snake has come out of the hole." Luo Qingtong smiled faintly in her heart. She had waited for so many days, and finally, there was movement from Ji Yuankuan and Ji Fighting. However, even if they wanted to deal with Ji Feiyu and Ji Yuancheng, there was no need to make such a big move. They even called back everyone from the family Ji. What were they trying to do? Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows slightly. On the other side, everyone in the family Ji was very happy. They were originally prepared to give up on Ji Yuankuan and Ji Fighting. They didn't expect them to be so tactful and take the initiative to abdicate. Not only that, they even called back the family Ji who were outside to gain experience. With such a big move, it was obvious that Ji Yuankuan and his son didn't deliberately say this to fool them. Since that was the case, they were relieved. After all, no one wanted to be implicated by Ji Yuankuan and his son. Now, the family Ji's reputation as the #1 drama queen in Dongting was very well known. They had lost all their face. Not only that, they had also suffered a lot in the hands of Ji Yuankuan and his son. Under such circumstances, who would still protect the father and son pair? The members of the Ji family were not fools. Ji Yuanquan and the others were like the sun in the sky, so they naturally flattered them. But at this moment, Ji Yuanquan and the others were practically hated by everyone in the Dongting region. Did they still need to protect them? Not to mention, the family Nangong had been severely offended by Ji fighting. He had already told his parents to choose between Ji Feiyu and Ji fighting. Did they even need to think about it? Naturally, he would choose Ji Feiyu. After all, no matter how useless he was, Luo Qingtong and the human martial arts realm expert behind her were a great help to their family Ji. Moreover, the family Nangong had already announced to the public that they would always be on Ji Feiyu's side. It was even more impossible for them to support Ji fighting and the others. Therefore, from the very beginning, they had wanted Ji Yuanquan to abdicate. Now that the other party had brought it up himself, it was in line with their wishes. The group of people from the Ji family were extremely happy. They were afraid that Ji Yuanquan would change his mind again. At that time, there would be unexpected complications and unnecessary trouble. They immediately spread the word. They told the family Ji's people who were training outside to come back as soon as possible. While they were in an uproar, Ji fighting and Ji Yuanquan had cold smiles on their faces. These people can't wait for me to give up my position to Ji Yuanqing and the others. In their dreams, Ji Yuanquan's expression was ferocious. He looked at the busy family Ji's people below and sneered. The blood sacrifice array has been drawn. It's under the family Ji's martial arts practice field. Once it's activated, I want them to die without a burial place. Chapter 2997. Ji Yuanquan's voice was cold. Ji fighting's face was also very cold and ruthless. He looked at the family Ji below and said, "It's a pity that I can't see Ji Feiyu and the others die in fear tomorrow. But it's the same to see it afterwards. They can't survive under the hands of Sir. Even if Luo Xiaoqi has an expert at the early stage of the human martial realm behind her." He said so, his face was full of contempt and ruthlessness. Even if that Sir's body was incomplete, and only had a soul body, he still had the strength of the 9th level of the human martial realm. If it wasn't for the time limit that he could leave the statue, and that he couldn't leave the statue often, which limited his help to them, they would have already unified the Dongting region. At this time, the other party was preparing to attack Ji Feiyu and the others. Luo Qingtong and the others who lived with Ji Feiyu and the others were also doomed. After the blood sacrifice of the family Ji's people, he and his father were about to walk towards glory. At that time, let's see who would dare to cause trouble for them. He and his father were too indecisive before. They were afraid that after the Sir's reconstruction, it would be disadvantageous to them, so they had been delaying it. Otherwise, how could Luo Qingtong deal with them before? Ji fighting thought of the humiliation and disdain he had suffered in the central arena before, and his face became fierce and vicious. At this time, Luo Qingtong had also finished making arrangements in the courtyard where Ji Feiyu was. No matter what happens later, the two of you are not to leave this circle. Luo Qingtong instructed Ji Feiyu and Ji Yuanqing. She set up a formation in the middle of the lobby, which was reinforced with the power of inscriptions. Under the double superposition, it could make the blood curse power in their bodies appear when people touched it. Luo Qingtong couldn't guess what tricks Ji Yuanquan and Ji fighting would play at the clan meeting, but she was sure that Ji Yuanquan and the others would definitely touch the blood curse power in Ji Feiyu and Ji Yuanqing's bodies. They would not give up their positions so easily. In that case, it was normal to attack Ji Feiyu and Ji Yuanqing. Luo Qingtong's blood pupil had yet to fully recover. If Ji Feiyu was alone, she would still be able to deal with him. However, with the addition of Ji Yuanqing, she was afraid that she would not be able to take care of him. That was why they were allowed to enter the formation. At that time, the formation would naturally ensure their safety. In this way, the power of the blood curse in their bodies would not be easily triggered. At the same time, it would make it easier for Luo Qingtong to find out who did it. Once it was dealt with, the blood curse in Ji Feiyu and Ji Yuanqing's bodies would be completely removed. When Luo Qingtong's words came out, Ji Yuanqing and Ji Feiyu both nodded in agreement. The injury on Ji Yuanqing's left hand had completely recovered. His essence, energy, spirit, and strength all rose by a level. The 1,000 silkworm thread that Luo Qingtong gave him was really too useful. He did not feel the slightest bit of stagnation in his strength. He only felt that his left hand had never been injured, nor had it been paralyzed for so many years. While the two of them were in position, Luo Qingtong was making other preparations. She never fought a battle that she was not confident in, and she never underestimated any enemy. Although she was almost certain that it was Ji Fighting and Ji Yuanquan who attacked Ji Feiyu and the others. Chapter 2998. She let Little Pig and Xiao Tuanzi out, and let them watch over her in case anything went wrong. While Luo Qingtong was busy in Ji Feiyu's courtyard, in the cave in Ji Yuanquan's secret room, the huge ferocious statue was also flashing. Then with a swoosh, an almost transparent aura suddenly rose from the statue's body. Then it appeared outside the statue. Hee, it's been a long time since I came out to stretch my muscles. I heard that Ji Feiyu has a young girl by his side, and there's also a human martial realm expert by her side? Since that's the case, I'll also absorb the other party's profound qi. The transparent aura wriggled in the air, and then quickly condensed into the same appearance as the statue. Then it turned and disappeared into the air. At this time, in the courtyard, Luo Qingtong, Ji Feiyu, and the others had already spent most of the night. The next day was the day that Ji Fighting and the others would hold the family meeting. Could it be that the other party actually intended to return the position of family head to Ji Feiyu and the others, and did not intend to do anything? Luo Qingtong thought so and suddenly raised her eyebrows. At this time, boom! The array that Luo Qingtong made for Ji Feiyu and Ji Yuanqing suddenly moved. An invisible force hit the array formation, and was blocked by the power of the array formation. Not only that, the inscription pattern inside also started to move. Buzz buzz buzz! Following the sound of movement, a blood-red pattern appeared above Ji Feiyu's head in an instant. Waves of suction force were continuously coming from the other side of the thread. If Ji Feiyu and Ji Yuanqing weren't in the array that Luo Qingtong drew, they would have been sucked dry. The scene of the soul blood curse flaring up was unexpectedly so violent. Sui Yu, Li Shuyi, and the others watched with trepidation. Only now did they realize that Ji Feiyu and Ji Yuanqing had practically walked through a life and death situation. While her face was filled with shock, Luo Qingtong's eyes suddenly lit up, and her entire body flew up in an instant. He's here. Her voice was ice cold. Almost instantly, she flew above Ji Feiyu and Ji Yuanqing's heads. With a whoosh, she pointed her finger and lifted the blood-colored net that appeared above their heads. Then, she raised her hand and fiercely pulled it out. Come out! Luo Qingtong straightened the fingers of her left hand. With a boom, the blood curse power in Ji Yuanqing and Ji Feiyu's bodies was instantly pulled out by her. This action could be done when she first discovered the blood curse in Ji Feiyu's body. However, in order not to alert the enemy, Luo Qingtong only imprisoned the blood curse power in Ji Feiyu's body at that time, and used the Yin Soul Pill to replace his soul power, so that the blood curse power could absorb it. Now that she knew that the person who cast the curse had come personally, Luo Qingtong didn't need to be polite to the other party. If it weren't for the fact that the power of her blood I hadn't fully recovered, she wouldn't have needed to deal with the other party for so long. She could directly open her blood eye and see where the blood-colored thread was spreading. Then, she would know who cast the curse on Ji Feiyu and Ji Yuanqing. However, this wasn't a bad thing. Chapter 2999. With this thought in mind, Luo Qingtong suddenly flipped the fingers of her left hand and wrapped the power of the blood curse that had been pulled out around her palm several times. Then with a bang her palm suddenly pulled. In the void, a cloud of transparent fog was pulled out by her. The transparent fog's expression was surprised. It didn't expect that the power of the blood curse that it had placed on Ji Feiyu and Ji Yuanqing would be broken so easily. How was this possible? It didn't feel anything at all just now. How could it know that Luo Qingtong had been feeding the power of the blood curse with the Yin Soul Pill? Of course, It didn't know that there was a problem with the blood curse. And Luo Qingtong's movements just now were extremely fast. When she was in Star City, she had already carefully checked the power of the blood curse in Ji Feiyu's body. She had long been familiar with how to break it. Therefore, when she did it, there was no obstruction at all. She easily pulled out the power of the blood curse. And when she pulled out the radish, she brought out the mud. The transparent fog that was absorbing Ji Feiyu and Ji Yuanqing's soul power, through the power of the blood curse, was naturally pulled out as well. Its expression was stunned. Before it could react, it had already lost the opportunity. The blood curse in Ji Feiyu and Ji Yuanqing's bodies had been removed. Even if it wanted to cast another curse, it wouldn't be able to succeed in a short period of time. Thinking that it was going to the family Ji at dawn to receive the power of the blood sacrifice of the entire family Ji, it thought that if someone disturbed the power of absorbing Ji Feiyu, there would definitely be a large amount of essence aura that would be wasted and couldn't be absorbed by it. At that time, it might lack some power and be unable to restore its true body. The transparent fog thought so, and immediately flew into a rage. Bastard, how dare you ruin my good deed? *tch. The transparent fog's expression was furious. It looked at Luo Qingtong, and already knew that she was the Luo Xiaoqi that Ji Fighting and Ji Yuanquan had told it about. After all, she was the only girl by Ji Feiyu's side. As for Sui Yu and the others, they knew about the transparent fog. Bastards, I'm going to suck all of your essence blood and Yuan Qi dry. I'll imprison all of your soul power as toys and puppets, so that you'll never be reincarnated. The transparent fog's heart was filled with hostility. Almost instantly, it rushed towards Luo Qingtong. It had a green face and sharp fangs. Its eyes were as big as copper bells, and there were 2 horns on its head. It looked like a human, but at the same time, it didn't look like a human. What is this? Luo Qingtong frowned slightly. She was also stunned when she saw the transparent mist being pulled out. She had thought that the person she had pulled out was either Ji Fighting or Ji Yuanquan. At the very least, it could be Ji Miao Miao. Who would have thought that in the end, it would turn out to be someone who looked like a monster, but wasn't a monster? Fortunately, she did not act rashly before. Otherwise, the other party would have noticed that something was wrong and alerted the enemy. While Luo Qingtong was thinking about this, little pig, who was not far from her, saw this scene and cried out in surprise. Demon! It's actually a demon! And it's a pure-blooded demon! Oh my god, how could this kind of thing appear here? They shouldn't be here at all. Little Pig was shocked when he saw Chu Tianyi rush over, blocking in front of Luo Qingtong, and blasting towards the demon. The power of 2LV9 human martial realm instantly tore through the sky. Chapter 3000. Oh my god, this won't do, quick! Get out of the way! Its voice was sharp. You can't touch its power. There is. Before it could finish its words, the power of the 2 people had already collided. Bang! Chu Tianyi's body seemed to have suffered a heavy blow in an instant. With a boom, he fell from the sky. His strength was already very close to the earth martial arts realm. At the same time, it was enhanced by his special bloodline. The real strength that he could display was extremely powerful, almost reaching the middle stage of the earth martial arts realm, level 4 or 5. But even so, when he came into contact with the power transmitted from the other party's body, he felt as if his power was being corroded and softened. With a boom, the other party broke through his defense line and directly blasted him. He looked surprised and didn't know what was going on. The opponent was obviously only at level 9 of the human martial arts realm. When Chu Tianyi was thinking about this, his body had already fallen to the ground. And the Demon King's body also fiercely retreated. Its body rolled, looking at Chu Tianyi's direction, and it laughed sharply. Ha ha ha. Good, good, good. I didn't expect you to have an expert at level 9 of the human martial arts realm. This is very good. Although I can't get Ji Feiyu's core vitality for the time being, I can get your profound qi, which is enough for me to accumulate enough strength to accept the blood sacrifice of family Ji. Ha ha ha. Its laughter was wild, and it was really very happy. With its current form and strength, It didn't dare to go to the higher-level star area. Otherwise, if it was discovered, it would be devoured and killed in minutes. It was known that it was the soul of the demon clan, and its power was a great supplement for those who practiced the evil arts. Its power was comparable to that of countless evil ghosts and ghosts. But now, in front of it, there was a lone expert at level 9 of the human martial arts realm. What did this mean? It meant that it could easily kill and absorb the opponent's power. The recovery and help that the opponent brought to it was no different from Ji Feiyu's profound qi. It was even stronger than its own. The Yin Demon King laughed even louder as he thought of this. It ignored Luo Qingtong and flew towards Chu Tianyi wholeheartedly. After killing this 9th-level human martial realm cultivator, then killing all the people present will be enough. As for Ji Feiyu, he would naturally be saved for the next blood curse. With that thought in mind, the Yin Demon King once again flew towards Chu Tianyi. Its body tumbled in midair, seemingly illusory. Chu Tianyi, on the other hand, was sent flying to the ground. If it wasn't for his special physique, he would have been seriously injured and unable to move. However, even if his body was special and could withstand the other party's attacks, he still couldn't get up for a while. Seeing that the Yin Demon King was about to reach Chu Tianyi, Yin Yang hastily ran over. "Don't!" She stood in front of Chu Tianyi and opened her arms to protect Chu Tianyi behind her. "Yin Yang, go away!" Chu Tianyi finally regained his senses. Seeing this scene, he was so anxious that his eyes almost popped out. He raised his hand to push Yin Yang away. However, it was too late. The Yin Demon King was much faster than him. Chapter 3001. Kiki, what a pair of lovebirds that share life and death together. Since that's the case, I'll fulfill your wish. As it spoke, it clawed at Yin Yang and Chu Tianyi, intending to pierce through their hearts. However, just as it raised its hand in an instant, rip! In the sky, the sound of a sharp sword cutting through the air could be heard. In an instant, it rushed towards the Yin Demon King with a boom. Haha! The Yin Demon King felt the sharp aura behind him, but he didn't take it seriously at all. Among Luo Qingtong and the others, only this LV9 human martial realm cultivator was a slight threat to it. The others were all scrap metal that it could kill with a finger. The girl behind them, Luo Xiaoqi, might have some ability, but her strength wasn't even enough to fill the gaps between its teeth. After it killed the two people in front of it, it would deal with her. As it thought of this, it ignored the sword light that was slashing through the air. "I have an invisible body. Do you think you can hurt me?" It laughed heartily, looking extremely proud. Its hands didn't stop moving at all, and it didn't even look back. However, as soon as it finished speaking, its body was instantly split into pieces by a beam of sword light with a bang. Ah! The Yin Demon King screamed in a shrill voice. It had just laughed, and its laughter hadn't stopped yet. When it mixed with its shrill screams, it was indescribably eerie. As it screamed, Luo Qingtong's voice also sounded faintly. "Of course I can." As she spoke, she shook the life and death Yin Yang sword in her hand and rushed towards the Yin Demon King again. After the latter's body was split into pieces, it reassembled again. However, it was obvious that its body was much thinner than before. The Yin Demon King's face was filled with disbelief and fear. It looked at Luo Qingtong and couldn't help but scream. "This is impossible. How could you hurt me?" Its voice was sharp, but Luo Qingtong didn't care about it at all. Kill it while it's weak. It had just been injured by her attack, and now was the time for it to attack. She couldn't be bothered to talk nonsense with it. As Luo Qingtong thought of this, she immediately slashed her sword towards the Yin Demon King. The latter already knew the power of Luo Qingtong's life and death Yin Yang sword. Seeing the sword coming towards it, its body suddenly trembled, and it immediately dodged to the side. However, just as its body tilted to the side, a voice rang out. With a boom, Chu Tianyi's attack arrived. The latter had already recovered a little. When he thought of the claw that the Yin Devil King had slashed at him and Yin Yang, he was instantly filled with hostility. He directly attacked the Yin Devil King. The pitiful Yin Demon King had just dodged to the side, wanting to dodge Luo Qingtong's sword. but Chu Tiany's attack blasted it back to its original position. It even crashed towards Luo Qingtong's sword. Rip. Its body was once again split into pieces by Luo Qingtong. Bastard! The Yin Demon King flew into a rage. After being slashed twice in a row, its body had become much dimmer. If this continued, it would definitely be destroyed by Luo Qingtong and Chu Tiany's joint attack. As it thought of this, it immediately wanted to retreat. It had been careless this time. It didn't know that Luo Qingtong could actually hurt it. It would wait until it absorbed the power of the people whose family Ji had been sacrificed. Then it would come back to settle the score with them. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.